We hope you enjoyed another exciting episode of Australians versus QR code. And given that the QR code is once again gone from the screen, you'd have to say big win for Australia in that one as well. They've managed to come out on top, and hopefully they'll manage to come out on top in our next match as well, at least for the Australian fans in the chat. They're up against a pretty strong opponent, G-Geek, in the form of Team Turkey #1, Chemko and Ignite, up against Mudda and, I've forgotten the name of the other Australian player. This is a disaster. Hang on. It's Cambo. It's Cambo. It is Cambo. Yep. I knew it all along, G-Geek.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I have no doubt in the fact that you knew it all along. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting match. Yeah, Mudda and Cambo versus Chemko and Ignite. Chemko and Ignite, of course, a team that you should not underestimate. We've already talked about Chemko, two-time AOTC champion. Ignite may not have had the success that Chemko had, but definitely one of the players at the sharp end of the Turkish scene who has been a regular contender in the Africa's Masters, also AOTC as well, when Turkey could participate in that. The MEA tournament as well, part of Molotov Gaming, along with Huso, who is also a very, very stout player that I guess is worth mentioning. But yeah, Ignite and Chemko are going to be making a very, very strong duo that Mudda and Cambo cannot take lightly in the slightest.
Yeah, it's, I mean, look, Formal, I'm going to come to you on this one because I think, obviously, everyone watching knows at least half of this Australian duo, right? Everyone knows who Cambo is.
Yeah. You know, if they don't know, I think they're about to learn because I've been watching on Mudda's stream, and it has been the Cambo carry so far to get this team where they've gotten actually right now. Look, the duo, they've been performing okay. I mean, they've had some mistakes. They've had the heart rate monitors running, and they've been feeling calm, cool, collected. But Mudda brings in the views. Cambo brings in the points. That seems to be where they've been going at the moment. And when Mudda starts to fire up, now that we've got the views in, he'll start scoring the points as well. So look out, Australia's going to strike.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'm a little bit nervous for the Australians, given that their fans in chat still seem to think that it's a 12-point limit, despite having been here the entire time. So, listen, who knows what's going on? Hey, Padster, with that in mind, knowing what's going on in Australia, we're going to go straight to predictions, I think, for this one. In this battle of Turkey 1 versus Australia 1, tournament lives on the line, right? A chance to make a deep run and potentially get some points on the board for your nation, too, in the overall leaderboards. Who are you picking to keep on going?
I think it'll be very close, but I think it'll be Australia.
Okay, Australia to come out on top. I mean, Formal, do I even have to ask?
No. I'm putting on my traditional Australian rally vest right now, all right? The high-vis council worker jacket. It is the rally vest. We're going to win 12-0. It has been decreed 12-0. Australia's getting it done. All right? Got the green and kind of gold. Let's do it. We're going to win this thing. Yeah.
I mean, with the sunglasses, I mean, I think there's about 1,500 versions of you standing around every major city in Australia right now anyway.
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
We're on Smoko, and we're winning 12-0.
Yeah, 2 votes. There's a great song. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Listen, we'll talk about that off stream. It's a great song. All right, that's 2 votes for Australia on the desk. G-Geek, are you going to add to it? I mean, surely if we get that far into it, then it's starting to feel a little bit like, you know, we're going to jinx them.
It's going to be a 3-map series, and I'm thinking Turkey will be moving through and eliminating Australia's main lineup. And you saw me take my hands in my hand because can you see how am I supposed to get work done with these guys with how they decided to actually get all out of cover like that? Come on, man, you can't do that. But yeah, on all seriousness, yeah. I'm thinking Turkey will be able to get the upper hand against Australia in the long run.
Yeah, can I just check with you, G-Geek, which of the Turkish players you think is going to be the impact, is going to be the factor in the win if they do manage to take this win over Australia?
I'm thinking, Chemko is the one name for me that sticks out to me that should be like the anchor. But honestly, Ignite is no slouch in terms of duo stuff, so I reckon they can really play. If they can play off of each other very well, I think both are going to have an equally marked impact on their own team fortune so far.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, listen, Formal, I know you've called me a coward for not giving, for not giving a prediction in the past. And so here's what I'm going to do. I do think Turkey are going to win this match. I do think they're going to come out on
Hold on. Remember where you're moving in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's true. Hang on. Yeah.
Hold on here, buddy. Hold on.
None of the Australians in chat have my address. I don't even know which state I'm moving to, so I'm safe. I can say Turkey with no fear of reprisals, I think. Maybe. Hopefully. We'll wait and see. Yeah, I do. Listen, I've been sold by G-Geek and also by the performances I've seen out of both Chemko and Ignite in previous tournaments. I will say, listen, full respect for Mutta and Cambo, but, and again, I say this in the nicest way possible. It's not going to sound very nice. I think if Cambo is being the carry for this team, that's a problem. I mean, Mutta is such a strong player that, like, you got to have Mutta performing as well. And if you're at the point where you're like, Cambo's bringing the points and Mutta's bringing the views, you're running into some issues with this Australian lineup just a little bit. So I do think Turkey, the team to come out on top in this one. I do think Chemko and Ignite are going to carry through. I won't be shocked if it goes the other way as well. And with that, Descon split 2 for Turkey, 2 for Australia. We're going to throw it on over to the cast for this one. Get things underway as soon as possible. Padster and G-Geek, let's get on. We're recusing both myself and Max Formal from this one. Look at him. We couldn't have him in the high-vis jacket the whole time.
Yeah, I think anyone watching will get a headache watching that for too long.
Yeah, I feel like we've just left the circus, and they're just gonna be continuing their after party right now over in in another channel. But in the meantime, yeah, we're gonna get settled into our particular match. So you're saying Australia, I'm saying Turkey. Honestly, it could really go either way, and we're gonna see if the map order is definitely gonna be playing a key factor in one team's fortunes or the other. It will be Chemko who will be in charge of picking the opening map. Just as a reminder, we have, of course, all 3 maps to be chosen, and we're going to be starting with Addiction. Hello, it's going to be a bit of a spicy one since we haven't seen a starter map so far.
No, I think it's a very volatile map, especially with that finish. So, yeah, I'm quite surprised to see Addiction first, and we get complete reverse of the last match on mainstream in terms of map order.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, alphabetical order, may I add. It's ABC. It's the ABC of the mixed map pack. You start Addiction, then we go to Bordeaux, and then in case we go on to map 3, it's going to be Cryomath. It's as simple as that.
Perfect. Nice and easy to remember what the map names are, what order we're going in, just as simple as your ABCs, I suppose, in this case. I don't know what to expect from this match, because I'm really not sure how practiced each of the players are. Obviously, we've heard that Mutta, not the most practiced he's ever been for a tournament, shall we say.
Yeah, this is something that I'm also going to be looking forward to. Whilst I did make a prediction, I'm going to be very much living the moment and seeing what players are offering on the table, because it's pretty much anyone's guess as to how the level of preparation of some of these players. You said Mutta said himself, not really too well trained, and that could definitely be a bit of a bad omen for Team Australia, because as Noah said, if you have one bringing in the points and one bringing in the views, you run into a lot of issues. Or, in other words, it's no use having a star player in your field that is going to be a consistent round in, round out to bring the points if the other one is going to be dead weight. So it's going to be very much a balance between the 2 team members that is going to be the key to be able to get the upper hand and thus continue the adventure of the mixed duo tournament here.
Yeah, I almost just can't believe Mutta getting carried either. Part of it doesn't really compute in my brain properly. And I do wonder whether, we've had seeding, we've had 2 matches already. This is going to be the 3rd match that Mutta has played here in the duo tournament. Is Mutta going to start getting a bit more dialed in over time as, almost, you don't want to be practicing in matches, but that could be what is happening here for Mutta. But we are underway with round number 1. The speculation can stop and the driving can begin. Mutta and Cambo versus Ignite and Chemko. We'll
Let's go on the road. Indeed, round 1 is underway, and already we're seeing a big mistake. This one from Cambo with that little touch of the island in the middle of the plastic sausage road, condemning him to last place so far at the end of Sector 1 by about half a second. And big double respawn from Ignite, actually. Did he think he did not have the lineup for the plastic part? This is a very, very late respawn at that for the man from Turkey. thus allowing Mudda to emerge in the lead. And Chemko, with a slight wall brunch on the way up the crest towards checkpoint number 7, will drop down to 3rd. And Combo, who was licking down in the doldrums after the early mistake he did on checkpoints 2 to 3, will be back in the fight to try and validate an ace for Team Australia. But Chemko is not giving up without a fight. Who's going to get the best exit, the best snap? It's going to be Combo, because Chemko hit the exit wall with the left rear. And with that, it will be a very zany ace for Australia to begin with, which did not start under the most auspicious of terms with that early touch from Combo. But nevertheless, the teammate from Mudda was there when he counted most, in 2nd place at the finish line.
Yeah, that was a bit of a messy round from all involved. Other than Mudda, who keeps it clean, the low practice not really showing through in that round. We'll have to see whether, the crashes are going to come later. But for now, strong start for Australia. I think good pace shown from Mudda. Potential of good pace from Cambo as well. It's going to be an uphill battle for Turkey on their own map pick, as we see Chemko going into the wall again. And Turkey perhaps questioning why they picked this. I'm certainly questioning their pick, as it is looking like the Australia show here. Cambo and Mudda running away with it for the time being. 2 temps up as we head through the uphill dirt. Can Ignite do anything to try and get him away? It doesn't look like it so far.
Whoa, Mudda close though.
Yeah, very, very close for Mudda. Ooh, and Ignite closing again. Mudda offline there. Ignite is going to get through. Chance to deny the Australian ace. How is the ending going to go? Oh, Mudda gets a lovely exit. Cambo with first, Mudda second. And it is yet another ace for Australia. Perfect start of the match for them.
And yeah, the spicy pick is starting to backfire pretty badly for Team Turkey, with back-to-back aces taken by Team Australia and a 6-point deficit to start to climb back. It's early in the game, thankfully for them, but they cannot really allow themselves to lose too many points for too much longer, given how the dynamic of the match is going to be shifting rapidly whenever we switch to Bourdon, which is, as a reminder, our 2nd map. As we go through sector number 1, checkpoint number 4 being crossed. This time everybody makes it through clean, and it will be top and tail of the leaderboard for Turkey, 1st through 4th. It's still 80 milliseconds between all of these 4 players who are locked in. Ghost within Ghost within Ghost within Ghost. Currently, it is going to be Chemko, still holding a very, very marginal lead of less than a 1/10 of a second compared to Combo, who is firmly sitting in 2nd place. We've got Ignite and Mudda battling for the benefit of 3rd. Now Combo making a charge, trying to take advantage of a bit of a slow exit from Chemko to move up into the lead of the race. Now it's a 3-way fight for the lead, with Chemko still at the head of this very tightly knit group as we go onto the final corner. Who gets the best slide? Who gets the best snap? It's going to be Chemko, and look at Ignite out of left field, taking advantage of a clip from the back wheels from Mudda to validate the victory for Team Turkey, who go on the board the first 2 points and thus manage to start eking away and eating away at the gap that Australia have created.
Yeah, Turkey are going to need a fair few more rounds like that if they're going to want to have a hope of winning their map pick here, winning the first map of this match. And Chemko makes another early mistake, and it looks like the issue with Turkey, it isn't necessarily pace, it does look to be consistency here. Cambo a bit behind, but definitely still within touching distance of Ignite, and Mudda playing well. Not quite as messy as we were perhaps led to believe by statements before the match actually got underway. But Ignite trying to close the gap. Has managed to bring a couple of surprises already in this first map. Specifically towards the ending, we saw Mudda go offline in one of the rounds, and Ignite sneak past. If Ignite can do that again, it limits the damage for Turkey down to just a draw after Chemko's early mistake. Can Ignite do something in this ending? Tries to go for it, but it's not gonna happen. 57-8 from Mudda. Ignite 1/10 behind Cambo there to pick up 3rd, get a victory for Australia as they march towards map victory. Of course, we are playing to 15 points rather than 10.
Yeah, indeed, this is an important thing to keep in mind. And also, one thing that I wanted to note is the difference in approach to that final corner between Mudda and Ignite. Ignite going for a bit more of a bell curve approach, but ends up losing a lot of speed midway through the corner and at the exit of the corner, which is what allows Mudda to go back in 1st place and thus validate the victory for Team Australia. In the meantime, start of the first sector here will be going the way of a potential draw, with Mudda in the lead, just quickly followed by Ignite, Chemko in 3rd, and Combo, which we're currently following along with, in P4. Going up the hill, the long left-hander over the crest. Be sure to keep the gear. It's a very low RPM corner, around 200 kph, 200 kilometers per hour. I'm getting my units confused. And very, very low ref count. You can risk dropping the gear if you're not careful on how you actually counter steer and actually bring your wheels back to center. We see Cambo completely out of it. Mudda is also way out in front, a tenth and a half ahead of Ignite, who cannot do anything to catch him back up. 57.834 for Mudda at the line. Ignite and Chemko do secure at the very least the draw, but the gap is still looking very, very tough to come back from. A 6-point deficit. Australia on 10, 5 points away from their first map.
These rounds aren't quite mathematically must-wins for Turkey yet, but they are going to need an ace at some point soon. Just victory alone would definitely not be enough. And the sooner they can do that, the better for them. But it looks like Chemko's had another dodgy start. Not enjoying the beginning of this map. Maybe almost picked it just to get it out of the way. But Ignite is battling with Mudda. Has certainly looked like the stronger player on their team so far. As Cambo kind of stuck in a bit of no man's land in third place. So I think we're going to have to focus on the fight between Ignite and Mudda up front. Tiny, tiny gaps between them. Few hundredths of a second, but Ignite crashes, and that is going to open the door for an Australian ace. Cambo having to ward off Chemko now, who has closed the gap after that early mistake. Offline mode misses the reactor, and that is going to be an easy Australian ace now. Just need to make the finish jump, and they manage it. 13-4. I think this map is probably as good as done.
Yeah, this is a very, very grim outlook for the blue side at the moment, with Australia needing a victory in order to validate the first map here of this best-of-3 series and coming into Bourdon with a great amount of momentum going their way. We start the round here. That could be the closer here on Addiction. We go from one side to the other. The Plastic Sausage Road, a little bit of a slide on the way out from Mudda into checkpoint number 3. He will still hold on to second place, goes a bit wide there, manages to avoid hitting the wall on the way to checkpoint number 4. Chemko and Ignite first and second, trying to sound the alarm, and oh, wicked, that's a solid 360 there. Tony Hawk would have been proud of that for Mudda, but unfortunately it's not going to help the cause of Team Australia, which thus gets voided its chance of closing out this map on the first round of asking. Chemko pulling away in the lead by about 0.2 of a second. Ignite now under threat from Combo, who makes the move for second place before the start of Sector 3 and the reactor grass part, but Ignite comes back at him and tries to snatch second place away as we go on to the final corner. Who gets the best slide? Ignite gets a bit more speed. Combo trying to go for a more direct line, but it's not enough, and Chemko and Ignite gate their first ace of the match, and thus will bridge the gap back down to 6 points. 13-7 still in favor of Team Australia, who are thus going to be denied their first map closing attempt.
Yep, Turkey still fighting, and they're gonna need a few more rounds like that if they want to take this map off Australia. But we've seen so many mistakes early on. Can they navigate this first part of the track with no issues? Ignite and Chemko still not with any problems. Yeah, tends to go wrong here, and there it happens again. Chemko really struggling with his first second of the track and 4 attempts per second. They're going to need some mistakes from Australia if they want an opportunity at an ace, and they're going to need Ignite to put in a stint here. Has to get past both Australian players. Remember, a victory would be enough for Australia to wrap up this map here on Addiction, to move on to map 2 with that advantage. Ignite crashes as well, and this could be it for Turkey. The first point could be going the way of Australia without any shocks through this final section. We know this final section can cause upsets. We've seen many a crash here. Other safe calls out for Australia. Cambo doesn't get reactive there. It's going to make this line a little more challenging, but does still make it up, does hold on to the ace. And there we have it. Australia beat out Turkey on the first map, and now move on to their own map pick.
Yeah, and this is always something that is going to sting very, very hard to lose on your own map pick and then head on to the opponent's pick. In this case, it's going to be Bourdon by Low Wire and Feed, which is going to be starting in about a minute or so after the warm-up is all over. And yeah, unfortunately, we didn't seem to be able to get the spark that they needed to actually get the comeback going. They were able to get something with the ace, but I feel like it was way too little too late at that point.
Yeah, and I really think they were almost defeated by that little plastic section towards the start of the track. We just saw so many mistakes from Chemko there that I think they have reasonable pace, and I think they can probably take it to Australia, but it just wasn't working out on that map, and they're going to have to hope that Bourdon is a little bit more consistent and that they can be there every round rather than being down to one player by the time we reach the halfway mark.
Yeah, indeed, and Bourdon is definitely one of the better equalizers, I guess, in its sense. It's the more approachable map of the map pack. We started with a very big, difficult map in terms of addition. Of course, it's very relative when we talk about difficulties. Of course, being competitive map, there has to be some sense of difficulty and some precision involved. But addiction was very much a very high bar to set as an opening map. And yeah, as we said, on the Turkey side, we tried to go for a bit of a spicy pick, but that ended up backfiring very, very badly. It almost blew the supercharger off the top of the top field Drexler the way that thing backfired. And it looks as though it's going to be a bit more of a hassle maybe to get back into the zone after such a conclusive loss for both Chemko and Ignite to get back to their winning ways and actually start putting up a bit of a fight against Mudda and Cambo.
Yeah, it's gonna be a challenge for them, but I don't think it's impossible. We've seen plenty of comebacks in Trackmania before, plenty of comebacks in this format as well. And we get underway here, round 1 on Bourdon. Will we see anyone going for that brick strategy? If I had to place a bet, I reckon we may see Cambo go for it. No one does it in this lobby. No one at all. No one feeling like that risk. No one's maybe spent the time practicing it. As we see, some slightly wonky wood lines there from the Australian side. Ignite, the beneficiary there, moving up into second place. Chemko close as well. All 4 players in very tight contention currently. Mudda trying to hunt down Ignite,
maybe
trying to turn it into an ace.
Maybe not for Chemko, sorry about that. I was trying to interject that, but yeah, indeed Chemko looking a little bit further away compared to where he would like to be, although this is looking very good for Team Australia, and unfortunately for Team Turkey, that little touch from the right rear of Ignite has cost the team dearly, and it's going to be yet another ace to start off strongly on the Australian side with a 55.637 for Cambo, 647 for Mudda. And with that, Team Australia looking to assert their dominance over Team Turkey and try to send the main Turkish lineup out of the tournament.
That said, there is going to be an opportunity here for Turkey. Cambo making a very early mistake. It's not the first time we've seen a player do that on the literally first block of this track. So, Cambo gonna have to try and close up here. And I'm not sure that they'll be able to. 4 attempts is quite a big gap to make up. Ignite a bit behind as it is Chemko and Mudda battling up at the front. And Cambo actually almost making it back into contention. Not too far behind Ignite at all here, as Mudda looks to be extending the lead a little bit. I will say, Mudda may not have been pracked for the mixed solos. Apparently may not have been pracked for mixed duos, but perhaps has played enough matches, enough rounds in enough matches, but they're starting to get stuff done, and Cambo actually climbs all the way back up into second through that final section, and it's another Australian ace.
Yeah, Cambo was in there for the long haul and really was able to reap the benefits of a steady comeback through the third sector. We were able to see his ghost come back to the back of the perspective of the Turkish players, both Huso and both Chemko and Ignite. I misspelled Huso there, but you get the idea. I was so used to see Huso and Ignite play together. It's just muscle memory, not muscle, well, brain memory, I guess, regular memory going in, calling in Ignite's teammate, but of course this Chemko that we're talking about. And here Cambo going very wide on the wood, but he's still able to stay within contention within a 1/10.5 to 2/10 of his teammate Mudda, who's currently at the head of the field. Ignite is sandwiched in between the 2 Australian players, but for how long in this round? Cambo goes a bit wide there on the entry to checkpoint number 7. Checkpoint 8 will still see Cambo going toe-to-toe with Ignite for second place, trying to validate a 3rd consecutive ace in 3 rounds here on Bourdon, but it looks as though it may not be the case here this time, as Ignite resists all the way through and even has the luxury to snipe Mudda at the finish to validate a draw to allow Turkey to stay at 6 points behind Australia and score their first point of the map.
Yep, it is an important point, but they are going to need to start getting a few more of them very soon. This is looking fairly comparable to map 1 actually in terms of getting that double Australian ace to kick things off. Ignite a bit behind, confusingly with the Australia skin. That is making this slightly difficult to keep track of what's going on for me occasionally. If anyone else had spotted that and thought they were going to say, nope, Ignite has the Australian skin. But Mudder and Cambo are up at the front, looking very dialed in, the pair of them holding hands as such, heading through this middle part of the track, and with a 3/10 gap, it's a lot for Chemko and Ignite to try and make up. And I don't quite think they're going to have enough pace as we head towards final section of the track. Ignite goes into the barriers. Chemko, the only hope left for Turkey to not fall to a 9-point deficit. And nothing doing there. Closes the gap a bit, but doesn't manage any more than that. And it is 10-1, and it is looking bad for Turkey here.
It was looking grim on map 1, now it is looking extremely grim for Turkey at 1 with that 110 scoreline against their name so far versus Team Australia. Here on Bourdon, we go from the perspective of Mara and Chemko, already with a touch of the left side of the car on the outside wall before checkpoint number 2. And Turkey are going to be continuing to face a gradually impossible battle to actually take part in. And Ignite, with that little touch just before the wall, sees the hill that was very steep become a wall, practically, when it comes to turning the tide around and actually put Turkey back in the fight for survival here in the mixed duo tournament of the Trackmania games. Amada with a great apex, going ahead of his teammate Combo, who continues to shadow him by about 0.06 of a second. Ignite way too far behind, 1.2 seconds back. Although, as I say that, Mada touches the exit wall with the right rear and full topics into the checkpoint, allowing Combo to move into the lead. But most importantly, Ignite and Chemko scoring 1 point and keeping the deficit somewhat stable, even though the gap continues to increase seemingly every 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, they tried to limit the damage there, but it is still a draw, and draws are good for Australia at this stage, because a few more draws and they just hit 15 before Turkey will even get into the double digits. So, pressure is really, really on to Turkey at this stage. This is their, we're getting towards their last chance to drive in this tournament, in the mixed duos section of it at least. And they're going to need to claw back a lot of points very, very quickly. This round, though, it is Australia once again in prime position. Cambo and Mudder up at the front. Chemko a bit further back. Do Ignite and Chemko have anything for this round? Or are Mudder and Cambo off to go and get another ace? A pair of them looking a lot more consistent with Turkey and a lot faster. It's a combo that is very difficult to beat. Just a couple of turns left as we have this finishing identity, and it will be another ace for Australia. They simply need one more point within the next 5 rounds.
0.515 for Combo. Yeah, sorry about that. I was just looking at the times. 0.515 for Combo, 0.6 for Mutta, all within the margin of expected round pace, maybe a little bit more of the slower side for Team Australia. But regarding the outcome that they're setting up for themselves, they don't really need to be pushing for low 55s just yet. Oops, sorry, excuse me about that. That one kind of came out of nowhere. In the meantime, Mutta will be trying to guarantee at the very least the second place needed to allow Australia to move through to the second phase in this mixed duo tournament. He's going to be battling along with Chemko for the benefit of the lead. Ignite in third position, and it looks as though Turkey might have an opportunity to retaliate, but they're going to have 2 corners to do it. First, there's going to be this one, and then there's going to be the long left-hander in the dirt before the final checkpoint. But look at the gap that has already been built up between Mutta and the rest of the field, and with that, Mutta crosses the finish line in first, gets a new PB with a .368. Combo makes it a victory by finishing in third, 16-3, the final score here on Bourdon, and it will be a 2-0 overall scoreline for the main Australia team, who sends Turkey at 1 out of the tournament. And I gotta say, a little bit disappointed in Turkey, who are just not. It just never clicked. Absolutely, at no point at all did it click at any point, whether it was on Addiction nor on Bourdon, and that makes me a little bit sad.
Yeah, I feel like there's more potential in that team than they perhaps managed to deliver. But I will say we can't exactly take away from the Australian performance, though. Mudder, who everyone had kind of warned me ahead of time, is looking a little bit sketchy. Actually played very well in there. Cambo as well, not a name that I think many people are as familiar with, played very well too. So we think but perhaps we have time to go and hop into another match, one that is still ongoing, as we have Italy versus the USA. Neil, Cackney, iPrime, and Bobo, 4 brilliant, brilliant players. It has potential to be a very close match. I'm not sure what the scoreline was on map 1, but it looks to be reversed on map 2 so far.
Yeah, so far it looks to be the United States with the upper hand, at least on the scoreline on the track. It's a bit of a different story here on this round, with Cockney barely hitting the island on the inside of checkpoint number 5, thus being relegated down to last place, and Neil locking horns with iPrime for the lead of the race at the present moment, and Italy looking to mount a fight back. But unfortunately, that's such a worse place to get a wall hit there, to get the crash for Bobo just before crossing the checkpoint, meaning that even a double respawn is not, well, a standing respawn will be the only way to go, as a running respawn will not be viable at all. And we do see that Neil takes advantage of the situation to retake the lead from iPrime, and Cockney takes advantage of Bobo's crash to move up to third and make it a victory for USA. 158.3, 78 for Neil, iPrime second, 2/10 down, and then just less than a 10th down from iPrime, we find Cockney in third, then Bobo in P4.
Well, I've just had a look to find results of map 1 here, and that went 14-16 to Italy 2, so a massive battle there. Only 1 ace in the entire thing and 6 draws in total. Very, very close battle on map 1, so hopefully we get to see a bit more of that throughout this match, but we've now hopped into a little late, and it looks like there's a decent chance of this match going to map 3 with Italy getting that first point. USA on route to that second point, 4-point lead vote, very much can be made up, especially if Neil is going to make mistakes and give an opportunity to Italy 2 here. Cackney makes a mistake as well, and we're now on for an Italian ace. Can Cackney do anything to try and prevent that, though? Just picking up 1 position would have quite a big point swing, but it comes down to Bobo, who crashes and respawns. That is a very pricey respawn, and the dynamic is flipped completely. By the time I barely finished my sentence, iPrime makes a mistake. No one is keeping it clean this time, and we suddenly have an American ace on the cards. Neil, who crashed right at the start of the round, probably quite confused how they've ended up in second place. But there we have it. US get an ace out of nowhere. And this map, well, it looks like we could be heading on to map 3 quite soon.
Yeah, it seems like map 3 is not quite imminent, but at least in 2 rounds' time, map 3 is definitely going to be a very, very real possibility as we move on to the next round. A 7-point lead for Neil and Cockney over iPrime and Bobo. The ice slide, everybody makes it through clean. Best snap will be going the way of Bobo, who gets a very nice direct line through the checkpoint afterwards. Neil, Bobo, Cockney, and iPrime in that order at the end of sector number 1. Neil a little bit crossed up at the exit of checkpoint number 5, will be relegated to the back of the field, and it's Cockney with a slight wall brush on the way up the long left-hander in the dirt, who will be relegated to the last place after that little incident. iPrime and Bobo promoted to first and second, but Bobo is not out of the woods just yet, as Neil is continuing to keep him honest and fight tooth and nail for at least 1 point going the way of Team USA. As we go into sector number 3, the long downhill, and this time it's Neil who's going to be cracking and touching with the left rear on the outside one of that long right-hander down into the dirt. And with that, Italy, iPrime and Bobo score an ace that will see them bridge the gap back down to 4 points of a deficit, 11-7. In favor still of Team USA, who still have a solid shot of making it into map 3.
Indeed, that was a bit of a must-win round there for Italy too. Really had to start closing down that gap, and with Neil respawning immediately, the opportunity is wide open for Italy too. It looked almost guaranteed with a 7-point lead to the US that we were going to be hitting map 3, but suddenly that looks like it is no longer for sure. Cackney doing a good job holding on to first place. A draw would certainly limit the damage from Neil's mistake. Can Bobo do anything about it though? Can Bobo get in the way? Doesn't look like it yet. It's still 3/10 of a second to Cackney. iPrime makes a bit of a mistake there, is going to lose at least a second, maybe 2. Probably not enough to get caught up by Neil, but it does now turn into 1v1 in Cackney versus Bobo. Bobo crashes as well. Consistency, really not the name of the game in this match, it has to be said. Cackney, the only one making it through unscathed, will pick up a very nice point for the States, as Italy still end up 4 points behind. They're going to need to get some big results soon, probably an ace.
Probably an ace, indeed, that would be required. And I gotta say, after watching Bobo throughout the round, poor man is just hanging in there. You saw the rollbacks that he had. He's fighting with... Yeah, there you go. You can see it. He's fighting with connection issues, and he's definitely hanging in there and continuing to fight for dear life. And this time, it looks as though the deal will be sealed for Neil and his teammate as a result of the huge crash from iPrime midway through the ice slide. Bobo currently circling back in P3, around 4/10 down compared to the leading duo of USA 1. Cockney and Neil, who are probably going to be sweeping positions corner after corner until, that is, Neil barely brushed the wall on the way towards checkpoint number 8, and we'll see Bobo going back ahead of him before the start of sector number 3. The best snap will be going the way of Neil, and again, Bobo continuing to hang on for dear life. You see him blinking away and back on, and you can see him also barely brushing the wall with the left rear on the way towards checkpoint number 12, and with that, it will be 15-8 for Team USA 1, and adding insult to injury, Bobo crashes into the flag mast and turtles his way into the horizontal finish. 57.988 for Cockney. Not a bad time, all things considered, just half a second away from the world record from Levon. And with that, map 3 will be coming our way in just a few minutes.
Yeah, it may not be map 3 of a match we were initially anticipating, but this match is looking like a close one. Although Italy kind of started to fall apart at one point there on Cryomass. Started bleeding out aces to USA. And we'll have to see how we go as we head on to map number 3, which is... I've forgotten the name of it. That's embarrassing. It's my map. It's Addiction. There we go. Yeah, so that'll be very interesting to see how that goes. Of course, a very... sketchy map at times, particularly at ending, causing issues. I mean, in the Turkey-Australia match, we saw some issues with the start as well. So, yeah, with a match that looks pretty crushy, having hopped into it at this stage, I'm very interested to see how Addiction's going to go.
I feel like all bets are off, especially given, you said it, the problems that we've seen, quote-unquote problems that we've seen, all the various events that happen, of course, on Addiction, especially checkpoint 2 and 3. That plastic bubble road that you have to go from one side to the other, it's so easy to mess up the timing and mess up the angle of steering, thus either slowing you down or hitting the inside of the island, and then basically almost the entire first sector is over, and it's going to take a long time for you to get that time back up in Sector 2 and Sector 3, of course.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting once we get underway. I imagine we're getting towards the end of the warm-up now for iPrime and Bobo. Up against Neil and Cockney. I'm not sure how the other US team is getting on, but of course, if both US teams end up going through, then they play each other again. Which it would be interesting, as I believe that, USA 2 has made it through. So this is a match to set up another USA versus USA match, potentially. Or can Italy get in the way and have to play, well, up against the States again?
Yeah, and this could definitely set us up for a rematch of round 1 in the tournament that we had a little bit earlier on. Oh, huge slip from the right rear from Bobo, sending him a little bit in the air, and thus relegating him perennially to last place. Cockney and iPrime side by side through the crest onto checkpoint number 7. Neil currently acting as an independent adjudicator until, that is, iPrime messes up the double right-hander before checkpoint into the start of sector number 3. Neil now locked in battle with iPrime for second place. Cockney in the lead. Going on to the final corner. Who gets the best snap? Who gets the best exit speed? It looks as though it will be USA hand in hand. 58.078. 25 milliseconds between first and second place. And it will be yet another ace going the way of Team USA.
Yep, that is their dream start here on Addiction. Italy are going to need some better performances soon to try and keep that going through in order to try and set up a match against USA 2, who await the winner of this one in the lower bracket. Of course, both of these teams fighting for their tournament lives here and for the opportunity to score some points for their country in the overall leaderboard. Both teams who would be hoping to maybe crack the top 10. I'm sure USA in particular will definitely be aiming for that. Bobo a bit behind, iPrime further behind now as well. So Italy did well to squeak out map 1. It started out well on map 2 and then started to fall apart. They really, really needed to go their way on map number 3 for the second Italian squad. Bobo is trying to get in the way, trying to get into second place, at least deny the ace. It is such a massive swing of points if you let them get the ace. Will Neil be able to do it? It's going to be right down to the line, and Bobo blocks it by 11 thousandths of a second, jumping ever so slightly further left. That works out well for Italy, and does somewhat limit the damage.
Yeah, it does somewhat. Well, the one thing it does prevent is 5 back-to-back aces leading to a 15-0 scoreline. That's the only thing, quote-unquote, that it actually prevents. Still very much USA 1 in firm command and looking to remain in further command as that pesky plastic section between checkpoints 2 and 3 rears its ugly head again. And even the double left-hander before checkpoint 4 causes a lot of problems. Italy is completely out of it. Mamma mia! Cockney and Neil first and second with a handy margin, more than a handy margin, of 4.6 seconds compared to Bobo, and they're just going to be bringing the cars home at this stage of the round. Cockney and Neil first and second by 0.2 of a second on the way to the reactor grass part onto checkpoint number 10. And we are going to be seeing, I wonder what the stopwatch will say on this round, how stout the round is. It's going to be probably in the upper, part of the 57s. It's a 0.729, definitely nothing to scoff at, around a half a second away from Epos's world record of a 0.298 that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. But with those huge problems from Italy, it looks as though they're definitely completely out of it, and maybe I'm going to be loosely translating a French verb, resignated, in a sense, well, just accepting their fate almost at that point.
Yeah, I think... Oh, and Bobo crashed as well, and I think, unfortunately...
That was a violent
match,
one.
Which looked so close when we first came into it, has now become a bit of a walkover for that first USA squad, who will be setting up the rematch with USA 2. Of course, the only match in round 1 of the tournament to actually get to map 3. I expect that to be a great battle between those two teams. I can't imagine that the US fans are particularly happy that their two teams are going to run into each other, because although it does guarantee one making it, further in the lower bracket, it does mean that at least one won't be, which is potentially a tough pill to swallow, as iPrime gets past. Neil does get a point on the board. It is something for Italy, but they really, really need an ace. It was damage limitation after that mistake from Bobo, but they need more with damage limitation.
Yeah, this 57.9 and that first place from iPrime is a very, very thin silver lining in comparison to how the rest of the round went for Team Italy, with that very, very violent stopping from Bobo early on the entry into the plastic sausage road that we were seeing a little bit. We saw basically 2 frames of the ghost of Bobo, and then that was it. He was completely off the screen. That's how violent the crash was for the man from Team Italy, as he now makes his way cleanly onto the plastic sausage road, but does hit the idol on the inside with the left front and will thus be relegated to last place perennially in the particular sector here of this round. Cockney and Neil going hand in hand through the first sector, 76 milliseconds between first and second, 0.3 ahead of iPrime from Team Italy. iPrime can do basically absolutely nothing but watch as the USA 1 team sprints into the distance as we go on to sector number 3. Neil going a little bit close, Cockney a little bit overcorrecting maybe, losing a little bit of speed on the entry into the reactor grass part as we go on to the plastic before the final dirt slide corner. Who gets the best speed? Who gets the best snap? Neil, Cockney, iPrime positions stay locked. 57.771 for Neil, who wins 0.2 ahead of his teammate. And with that, we go on to a 10-2 scoreline, a 10-point lead for Italy, 12-2 even at that point in time. And it will be match point number 1 attempt for Team USA.
And it's done. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but iPrime crashes, Bobo. Almost looked like a disconnect. Very strange. Neil, okay, it is not done. Neil respawns. As it doesn't look like Bobo's driving. I'm not quite sure what is happening in this decider round, but it looked like the positions are pretty much set. To be Cockney winning, iPrime second, Neil third, which would put the US on 14 points against Italy's 3. Not quite sure what is going on, but I dare say it's not going to make much difference to the end scoreline.
Yeah, and even our and you could, I don't know if you could briefly see, but even our producer is slightly confused as to what we've just seen. I myself am slightly confused. I can feel maybe my brain starting to liquefy after what I've seen. I'm not exactly sure how I can tell, to be completely honest. But Cockney will be taking the round win ahead of iPrime. Neil in P3 will be able to reach the finish line, and even though Bobo doesn't reach the finish line, it does not matter. It will be a 14-3 score in favor of Team USA. Neil does get to the finish trigger. I wonder if there was a technical issue on the side of Bobo, maybe? I'm not exactly sure. We're still trying to figure out what went on in that round, and if we're going to get a technical pause. Let's see if Bobo is going to be back on his merry way. It looks as though he is back on driving, so I don't exactly know what went on there.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, that crash, it almost looked like a controller disconnect. It just looked like they stopped driving there. Very strange. But they are underway, and it is an almost impossible task for Italy too. They will need 4 aces in a row if they want to continue in this tournament, or is this most likely the end of the road with Neil and Kakane up at the front, first and second. I think Italy would need a double crash here from US for possibly 4 rounds in a row. And I just don't think that it's going to happen, as this is getting to the end of what feels like a victory lap for Neil and Kakane. Neil misses the reactor though, does allow the 2 Italians to get past, so there is a chance Italy drag this on for at least 1 more round. Will Kakane get across the finish line though? Yes, they will. And there we have it. We will be getting another case of the US versus the US in the lower bracket. And Italy will be dropping out.
Yeah, and there's going to be at least 2 people that we know of that is going to be very happy with the outcome of that match, and very happy to see both teams going at it together. That is, of course, a little bit of sarcasm in case you haven't picked up on it in the meantime, but I'm pretty sure our panelists have picked up on it. Max Formal and Nua Laker are joining us right here, right now, and yeah, I gotta say, Nua, I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty disappointed with how Team Turkey went there.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. I mean, I think the main thing, and Padster was highlighting it during the match as well, is Mutta has really started to wake up in that lower bracket as well. We were talking about it going in. I said a Team Australia in which Cambo is the carry is not a Team Australia that I'm excited about. And Mutta was awake. Mutta was doing a lot of heavy lifting in that match as well. I think if Mutta had been kind of at or below the place Cambo was at, that was a much harder match for them. So congratulations, Team Australia. They advance in that lower bracket. They get their matchup against Czechia too. And then, yeah, I mean, Formal, it's the all USA battle in the lower bracket again. The civil war continuing in the lower bracket. They've already run into each other once in the upper bracket.
I mean, you're setting me up to talk about USA as if I'm not going to take this moment to do a victory lap. Well, Australia over Turkey. To avoid it. Let's go. You all doubted. It was always meant to be. Mutta has learned the tracks. You didn't. No, you get the pass. You're good. Pastor, you're on board. You can. What you need to do now, go to Ireland, steal his tickets to Australia. You're welcome. You're good. Join the Southern Hemisphere. But yeah, USA Civil War. Look, those 2 teams, they went at it before. It was super exciting. It went to that 3rd map. It was back to back. And even if Randomize is unhappy about the situation, those who watch that game are in for a banger. So you know what? Good on them.
Yeah, and I mean, worth highlighting there, Padster, the team of Neil and Cackney did lose that first match in the upper bracket despite being USA 1.
Yeah, indeed. And I think one surprising thing I thought as Addiction was going on and as USA 1 were performing so well on it, I thought, I wonder how they fared up against USA 2, and they got demolished. First time on Addiction. They absolutely lost. So, I mean, if they can play Addiction against USA 2 like they did against Italy 2, then I think it's very possible that the scoreline is flipped this time. I think that's going to be an absolute belter game. I may have to try and get up on a second monitor depending on what we decide to put on the main card. It's going to be so hard to keep track of all of this. There's just so many games going on when you got 64 teams in a double elimination bracket. It's a ridiculous number of matches.
It really is. We are starting to narrow that number down just a little bit, and we are definitely getting to the point where the lower bracket is starting to see the elimination of some contenders, some teams that we would be expecting to see get a little bit deeper. Australia will be up against Czechia 2. We have a Netherlands team up against a Slovenian team. Finland versus France. Both of their second teams happening in the lower bracket now. But the match we will be watching when we come back from a short break is going to be Croatia 1 up against Sweden 2. Going to be, G-Geek, I think, a very exciting match.
Yeah, it will be exciting. Of course, Croatia, which is being spearheaded by Ixon and Razi, as they are going to be fighting on against the second Swedish team, which I'm retrieving the lineup of. Susui and Zenke, of course, fighting for survival in the rest of the bracket. And whoever actually wins this match are going to be having a bit of a tougher fight. Whoever wins this match is going to be winner of second place of eighth, the final winner too. I'm trying to follow along with the brackets that we have on the website, as well as eCircuitMania.com. ! Bracket in the chat if you want to consult the brackets on the website as they get updated as well. And Croatia, Sweden, one match to look out for. We said, of course, Australia and Czechia. Mora versus Elcon as well. This is one thing to keep an eye out of. And also, there's Spain 1 versus Poland 1. Who I think that's the team from Key, isn't it? The main Poland lineup? Yeah, it is indeed
so,
Key
yeah.
and Neon
Key and
versus
Neon.
Spain. Key and Neon versus NDRC and Loco. This could be another pretty interesting match as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting matches going on down there. Exactly. Thank you for highlighting them. Formal, you have some questions to answer. But you're going to have to do it during... What is a buildie?
What is
Listen,
a buildie?
fake Australians in Twitch chat right now. All right, listen, you can get into it with them during the break. We are going to go to a quick break. We will be back with our lower bracket match in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. Lower bracket action continuing after this.